Hello and welcome to The Take. I'm your host, Chesley McNeil. Each weekday, we're looking at stories, making headlines, and bringing experts from our community to give their take. Here's a look back at some of the top takes from this week and how those in the know are seeing those stories that impact you. Morris Brown College here in Atlanta lost its accreditation back in 2003 and it's since been looking to rise again. And now the Atlanta-based HBCU is making a comeback. Joining me now is Dr. Kevin James, the 19th president of Morris Brown College. Dr. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Talk to me about where you've been serving as president of college for 6 years now. Talk to me about where it was or what it was like when you first signed on to where it is now.
Yes, Morris Brown College has made a historic comeback. We're so excited to literally come back almost from death. You know, Morris Brown College lost its accreditation in December of 2002. We lost our federal financial aid and the school's enrollment plummeted. But I'm so happy to say that the school is back today. We're now fully accredited. We have our federal financial aid reinstated. We now have our veterans benefits reinstated. We have our F1 visa and international enrollment reinstated. And we're now the most affordable HBCU in the city of Atlanta, including degree programs that are very, very competitive. Students can come here to the campus or take classes online. Morris Brown College is back, and we're so very excited about it.
Has it surprised you how quickly things have turned around since you've been there?
Well, it hasn't been that quick. I mean, I've been the president here 6 years. It took us about three and a half years to become fully accredited. But we're very, very excited. I'm so proud of the team that we've assembled here at Morris Brown, and we're continuing our resurgence.
How has the transformation been for you?
Oh, it's been very, very great. You know, we have a lot of supporters in the community. So many people are watching Morris Brown. They're very, very excited for our restoration. And I'm just so proud of the community support of our institution.
Gotcha. Now I understand you're launching a major campaign through the Blank Family Foundation. Talk to me about that.
Yes, Morris Brown College is so excited to partner with the Arthur Blank Family Foundation. Right now we have a major marketing campaign promoting our hospitality management certificate. We have a very, very fast-paced 1-year hospitality certification so we can build that pipeline of Black and brown talent to go out and to work in the restaurants, work at destination sites, work at hotels, and other organizations. So we're very, very excited of the support of the Arthur Blank Family Foundation. And we're very, very excited. Continue to watch Morris Brown. We're all over the city. You'll see marketing all over the city promoting this restoration.
What do you hope people take away from it? Is that just it, to get more folks enrolled in the school? What's the big takeaway with this partnership?
Yeah, the big takeaway is building our hospitality management program. Mm-hmm. You know, Morris Brown College is the only institution, the only HBCU in the state of Georgia with such program. And so we have our 4-year bachelor's degree program in hospitality management, also our 1-year certification. And so our major focus is to promote that we have the program here and then also to increase our enrollment.
What is your goal now? I mean, you bounce back and obviously you have more goals. What's next for you?
Yeah, when I started at Morris Brown, we had this mantra called the hard reset. That was literally going back to the basics, going back and resetting. That is now over. Morris Brown College is reset. We are now in the second 5-year phase of our journey called the resurgence. So my goal now is to increase our academic profile, increase our enrollment, increase our endowment, fundraising, and to make sure that everybody knows that Morris Brown not only is back, but this is a phenomenal institution. Please take a look at Morris Brown. You can go to our website, morrisbrown.edu, check out our programs, check out our low tuition, and we would love to have you here at the institution.
All right, Dr. Kevin James, happy to see the Q's back too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right, take care now. Keeping kids safe on social media is becoming tougher and tougher with each new app and update. Today, Meta is rolling out some new safety features aimed at allowing parents to monitor content and control time their teens spend on their apps. Here now with more is Jennifer Hanley. She's the Meta North American Head of Safety. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
No problem. How scary is it for teens these days and preteens to be on social media?
You know what? We don't want it to be scary. We actually want it to really be a positive experience for teens. That's why we have our teen accounts. So on Instagram, for example, we have built-in protections for young people, really to help empower them and help support their experience. We provide things like, strict settings to really control who can message them, the type of content that they're seeing, and even, tools to help them manage the time that they're spending. So we want it to be a safe and age-appropriate and positive experience for young people.
Social media changes so fast. It evolves quickly. How do you guys stay ahead of this?
It does. Things move quickly, and especially if you're a teen. But that's exactly it. We really want to make sure that we're talking to teens, we're talking to parents, we're talking to experts to help inform what we're doing and providing the right tools and resources for them. That's why we launched Teen Accounts last fall. We've been really excited to see how those are doing and to hear from parents as well about how they feel about the support that we're providing through these tools and features for young people. We've seen so far, that we have about 54 million teens around the world enrolled in Teen Accounts now to really help keep them safe on our platforms. And we're still growing and expanding that around the globe. So those are some of the things we're really doing with our Teen Accounts. And today, what we're also announcing is that we're expanding this. We want to make sure that parents have peace of mind across the apps their teens are using. And so we're expanding Teen Accounts to Facebook and Messenger today as well to really help keep people safe.
Explain to our viewers that are watching, our parents that are watching, how this is different from a regular account.
Yep. So Teen Accounts have built-in protections for young people. When you sign up for your account, or if you're an existing account, we automatically enroll you. So for example, with Instagram, we have limitations on who can contact you, the type of content you see. We have a daily limit. After 60 minutes of daily use, a teen gets a notification encouraging them to leave the app. And we even have sleep mode on at night to mute notifications, for example. And those are just a few of the features that we have. We also do have additional parental supervision tools, so parents get insights into who their teen's been messaging with, the types of topics they're interested in, and parents can set even more strict limitations on the time their teens are spending on our apps. So we're really excited to give these features both the built-in protections for teens and those additional supervision tools for parents to help them.
So this has already been rolled out with Instagram already, right?
Yep, we started the rollout for Instagram last fall, and at the time we really committed to building this out even more. So we're excited to be launching this on Facebook and Messenger now.
So what is the parents saying about it? Are they excited about it? Has it worked for them? Have you gotten any negative feedback at all?
We're talking to parents all the time and continuing to hear from them. So we actually did commission some research. We had a survey done with the group Ipsos. And we heard overwhelmingly, like more than 94% of parents really felt that Teen Accounts were helpful. 85% of the parents surveyed found that Teen Accounts could help them help their teens have a more positive experience on our platforms. And more than 90% were really favorable about the different features that we offer. So we were really excited to hear that feedback, to see that this is resonating with parents. And we'll continue listening and hearing from them about additional tools and features that they need that can really help them guide their teens online.
Lastly, is there anything else parents can do along with the features that you now have to help keep their teens safe?
Absolutely. So we have a really robust family center. It's familycenter.meta.com. Parents can go there to get all sorts of expert-backed tips and resources to really help start the conversation at home. The tools are really one part of this, but another thing that you should be doing is having conversations with your teens, modeling kind of the behavior you want them to have when it comes to screen time or phone-free zones in the home. So having those conversations, get curious, ask your teens what they like about being online, some of the positive things that they might be doing when they're using social media, and utilize those resources in the Family Center to help guide those conversations.
All right, North America's Head of Security, Jennifer Hadley, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right. With thousands of workers across the metro area now without a job, many are scrambling to figure out what their next steps will be. Joining us now is John Hatton. He's the Staff Vice President of Policy and Programs for the National Active Retired Federal Employees Association. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get your take on what's been happening. How big of this is a blow from where you sit?
The CDC layoffs are just the latest of a number of blows to federal employment that could impact federal operations on behalf of the American people. So some of the research they do at the CDC and what they take care of, from birth defects to tobacco use, a number of programs are being cut. That's also meaning jobs are being lost, and that's going to mean less for the American people. Weather service is another one that's been hit in different cases, less staffing, national parks. Across the board, we're seeing cutbacks that ultimately, because there is no clear plan about how they're carrying out these activities, I think it's going to harm critical government operations.
Not only are we hearing that federal workers are struggling to find new jobs, we're hearing that they're having a hard time signing up for unemployment. What do these federal workers now have to do in a time of uncertainty like this?
Well, certainly applying for unemployment if you are subject to a reduction in force. We've heard some people maybe put on administrative leave before it actually goes into effect, so they may not be fully terminated as of yet. They may be looking at different offers that may be coming out in terms of voluntary early retirement, voluntary severance. Certainly our heart goes out to them. They've done nothing wrong. They've done their jobs well. They're not getting laid off due to performance, particularly in this case with these reductions in force. So they may have a lot of questions. They're obviously got to get their resumes up to date and potentially post on LinkedIn and start looking for jobs. But there's a lot of things in the transition out of federal employment that they may have questions about.
Gotcha. Next week we'll mark the tax filing deadline. Any advice for active, retired, or laid off federal workers?
Get your taxes in on time. I think we have resources at NARF in terms of how to take withdrawal strategies around that tax filing. Typically, those strategies should be applied during the tax year. And so there's a lot of strategies, whether you want to convert to Roth to take out your money and time your withdrawals to reduce taxes as a retiree, or just in terms of what your investment advice would be going forward in terms of whether it's in the TSP or outside the TSP. One of the things for some of these laid off workers is they can keep their money in the TSP, which typically has pretty low administrative fees for index funds.
All right, John, I want you to play a forecaster a bit here. And do you see in your crystal ball when we could be coming out of all this?
Well, I think a lot of this will ramp up into the congressional budget process for the next fiscal year 2026. So the president's budget hasn't come out for that yet. That's fairly typical when a new president is in. When Biden was in his first term, in his first year, his budget came out in May. So I think there's a very accelerated plan for all these reductions in force and potentially ending programs. But there'll be questions, one, for the courts to take a look at in terms of the administration is stopping certain programs. They've eliminated certain federal agencies. They may not have the authority to do that. They're pushing a very novel constitutional argument that's contrary to legal precedent on their ability to not spend funds Congress directs them to. And there's going to be a range of different statutory provisions that in some cases are very clear that the administration cannot impound funds, in other cases are less clear. I think that clarity will then feed into the budget process where the president's budget comes out and they have negotiations with Congress over what they're funding into the future. And I expect that whole process to be very contentious. Typically, you need Democrats to be part of the process in the Senate to get the bill over the finish line. So there'll be a lot more to play out in the courts and in Congress before all is said and done. But I think a timeline is heading into the next fiscal year will be critical.
All right. John Haddon, Staff Vice President of Policy and Programs, National Active Retired Federal Employees Association. Thanks for your insight and joining us today. Right now, many of us are trying to gain any edge we can over our personal finances. And when it comes to credit cards, it comes with using those with hopes of raking in those points, right? New numbers from Bankrate show 76% of Americans carry at least one credit card. 72% of those card holders with a month-to-month balance say they make at least some effort to earn credit card rewards. Add to that, however, 54% of credit card holders say it's gotten harder to pay off their credit cards over the past year. Here to help us make some more sense of this, get more bang for our buck when it comes to those rewards is Morgan Ward, Assistant Professor of Marketing at Emory, whose primary research focuses on consumer behavior. Welcome back to the show, Morgan.
Thank you for having me.
All right, come on, help us make sense of this thing. Is it surprising to you to hear these numbers when it comes to this shaky economy that we're in, that people are using these credit cards with a hard time of paying them back?
Not at all. I think everybody feels really overextended, or at least extended right now. And so the way that we deal with that is putting our purchases off, in a sense, by using credit cards to purchase them so we can pay them over time.
All right, so that Bankrate study also found that close to 90% of Gen Xers and 85% of millennials say they are using credit cards for the rewards, obviously. But again, is that scary for this younger generation in this economy?
it's a bad idea as long as you're using the credit card points right, actually. I mean, there's lots of great credit cards that give you benefits for just purchasing on them, but you have to select the right kind of credit card to fit your needs.
Does it have to be one or the other when it comes to paying off credit cards and earning those rewards?
There's a lot of differences between the credit cards when you're choosing the correct one, but the number one thing is to make sure you're paying it off every single month, because you don't want to be carrying a balance.
So now let me ask you this: Is it better to use your credit cards, or it seems like all companies now have these reward programs, right? If you just sign up with them, they give you this little card or certificate or something, and every time you use them, you get some points. Is it better to do that instead of using the credit cards?
Actually, it probably isn't better. It's probably best to get just the right credit card that has the best benefits. These dedicated credit cards, so you're going to get Nordstrom dollars or Marriott points, tend to be the lowest ratio of benefit to purchase. So those tend not to be the best ones, actually.
Give us some examples of some you think that are good.
So most experts in this topic are going to say that the Chase Sapphire is the best. It has a fairly low rate to procure the credit card, and it has really good benefits. But I would say the tips for people who are researching this are basically the following. One, you want to make sure that the benefits that the card offers are something that is valuable to you. A lot of these cards offer travel. If you don't care about travel, that's not the right card for you.
Right.
So make sure that you're getting the right benefit. Make sure that you understand the value of the points. The reason that the benefit doesn't really come with something like the Marriott card or the Kohl's cash card is because the value of the points is relatively low. So you want to make sure that the value of the points that you're getting actually trades in for a really good benefit. And then make sure that you're not overextending yourself to get the credit card. A lot of these cards do have costs everywhere from $0 to I've seen as high as $700. So you want to make sure the benefits are offsetting those costs. And I would say the last two things would be to check that the way that you get the benefits isn't too complicated and full of difficult websites to navigate or complicated rules. And then the last one is it's so exciting to get a new credit card with these benefits, and oftentimes people will end up overspending on that card to get the benefit. So you want to keep in mind that this is money we have to pay back, and even though the benefits are exciting, you don't want to overspend just to get them.
Absolutely. All right, one last quick question, and everybody's different, but how many credit cards would be too many credit cards, you'd say?
It depends if you're paying them off all the time. Since your credit is based on a ratio between how much money you have on credit cards and how much total credit you have, having a lot of credit cards aren't bad at all, as long as you are keeping the balances low and paid off. So, that's a person by person thing.
Got it. With all that money you got, I know you got a couple credit. No, I'm kidding. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you joining us today. Have a great day. Uncertainty is running high about what the White House will do next in this trade war, and that's causing many to worry about their retirement plans. Here to make sense of it all is Atlanta-based financial advisor Barry Spencer. And Barry, welcome back to the show, first of all.
Absolutely. Good to be with you again this morning.
All right. So the markets went south for many of us. And here in the newsroom, we've been talking about our 401k savings. Let's get the short answer on this. Yes or no? Is our 401k in jeopardy?
Well, what you see with your 401ks and all the equity markets right now is what has always been around, and that is the stock market roller coaster ride. And so what people really need to be thinking about in this moment is how did that feel financially and how did it feel psychologically? And then decide whether to stay on that roller coaster ride over the next years and decade along ahead, or to somehow look at ways to insulate from that roller coaster ride. And that becomes more and more important the closer you are to retirement and in retirement. For those further out, say they're in the save mode versus the secure mode, it can be a little bit different approach.
So you're saying let it ride for a year. Like if we're looking at it right now, and I try not to look, you don't just jump off, right?
Well, a lot of people are saying that. And that's probably the best strategy, is to not look, especially if you have multiple years until retirement, because honestly, the drop in the market for those who are in save mode, they want that drop because they're adding to their savings over the years and they're not going to be using those for a long time. But those who are in retirement or close to retirement, say within even 3 years or 5 years of retirement, they need to be thinking about their strategy and their overall investment plan when it comes to how much they want to stay on this stock market roller coaster ride. And they certainly don't want their income in retirement based on the stock market roller coaster. That is for sure.
Explain to us how much of a hit do swings like this really hit your funds?
Well, like we've seen here recently, about a 17% or so decline, but this is normal. A 17 or even 20% decline can come multiple times in a year or even 2 years. So this is a litmus test, if you will, to how you feel about your finances and how you feel emotionally, because what you want to prepare for is not just this decline, but the crash that you'll experience over the next during retirement, 2, if not 3 or 4 times during retirement. And that's what you got to be ready for, is the real crash, the real test of the market fortitude. And are you ready for that? And this is the litmus test to find out just how strong you are from an income standpoint if the market goes down, and from an emotional standpoint when you see the value decrease.
Is this what you've been doing in recent days, kind of talking people off the brink, really? Trying to talk them off the ledge?
Well, the honest truth is, for our clients, we've been talking about this for years.
Ooh.
And the moment someone becomes one of our clients, we talk about the market crash and are you ready for that? So we market crash test every single portfolio from day one. So we've received no phone calls, no emails, no panics, 0 over the last week and a half, because we've said these moments come and they come frequently, and we put that in front. And I think that's the thing about the financial industry. A lot of times people don't want to deal with the hard truth about what the roller coaster ride actually looks like and feels like, more importantly, for their clients. And so most are caught off guard and they're blindsided. And so we try to keep people from being blindsided by hedging and protecting their assets so that they're ready for these moments and they're off that roller coaster ride with money they need in the short term.
Wow, kudos to you guys. So what do you see? Do you see it getting better over time? What's your prediction for all this?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball like everyone else, but I will say, tariffs come and go like presidential candidates come and go. And so the way this kind of plays out, no one really knows. And I think the best thing that people can do to focus on with their money, their 401ks, and their investments is to focus on the controllables and not the uncontrollables. There's those things in all of our life. And so if you can focus on the controllables in your life, you can start to have peace and confidence about the future. And the uncontrollables, you kind of hedge, you kind of protect as much as you can from those uncertainties like the ones we're in right now, but then come back and focus on those controllables, like having a full written documented investment plan, a full documented written income plan, and then a tax plan as well, because taxes are a huge part of retirement, because it's not about net worth in retirement, it's about net income at the end of the day.
All right, well, you certainly helped me off the edge just a little bit, Barry, just a little bit. Thanks for joining us today. We'll check back in with you soon, I'm sure. Metro Atlanta is seeing a major shift in the housing market. A growing number of single-family homes are being built not to sell, but to rent. These build-to-rent communities offer renters the space and feel of a suburban home without the responsibility of home ownership. But some feel there's a big downside to this. 11Alive's Jonathan Martin joins us now with a closer look at his story in our Affording Atlanta series. And Jonathan, let's start. First of all, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. I'm up earlier, a little earlier this morning, so glad to be here.
All right, why is Atlanta seeing many of these build-to-rent communities popping up?
Well, Chesley, if you ask developers, they say there is just a huge demand for this. We hear that Atlanta is full, right? But people are continuing to move here, and a lot of people are transplants. A lot of people may be even existing residents. Maybe they're empty nesters now. They're looking for sort of that middle ground between owning a home and living in an apartment. They don't want to live in an apartment where they have to worry about neighbors above and below, or they don't necessarily want to have to worry about the responsibilities of home ownership. Perhaps they can't afford a home right now, but they want the amenities. They want that backyard. They want that garage. They want the space and privacy. So people are turning to these build-to-rent communities that gives them sort of the amenities of a home without the responsibility of home ownership.
Break down the price difference for me in renting this and purchasing a home yourself.
Well, you know, it really does depend on what part of Atlanta you're talking about. I mean, we've seen some of these build-to-rent communities up north in Roswell, Lawrenceville, even down south in South Fulton. That's one of the build-to-rent communities you're looking at in this video right now. The average rent there in this community is between $2,100 and $2,500, which is a little more than you might pay for an apartment in this community. But again, you take out property taxes, you take out having to fix the HVAC system and maybe other HOA fees. And so people feel they're getting a bargain here until they can figure out what's going to happen with the housing market.
Seems like this model may be good for renters, but critics are saying it hurts homeownership.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of critics of the build to rent model. Many people feel that it, you know, favors these large investors who go and buy up all these properties. They convert some of the existing rentals, I should say homes, into rentals. And so they have these big portfolios. You know, Chesley, if you and I want to buy a home, we likely have to take out a mortgage. But some of these big corporate landlords, they can buy up property after property, convert them, put cash offers up well above sometimes market value. And so they're able to sort of have a stronghold on the market and really squeeze out a lot of these homeowners. That's one of the big feelings. And people feel also that if you continue to build rental after rental, you're building fewer homes for sale. And we know that having a home, buying a home is one way that a lot of people build equity and generational wealth as well.
Yeah, you probably got a lot of people excited. They're watching this saying, "Ooh, I want to get on board." What do they need to know before they get into one of these build-to-rent communities?
Yeah, so before you sign on to one of these communities, because Chesley, they are popping up all over Metro Atlanta, you want to make sure that you know about this company that owns it. NextGen is the company that owns several of them here in Atlanta. You can simply do the research. What are their eviction policies like? Are they known to raise rent? Are they good with maintenance? Because you don't want to have a company that builds one of these communities in your city, in your community, and the owners live way in Arizona somewhere, and they're not necessarily taking care of the maintenance. So make sure you know not just that the property looks nice, but find out, you know, the nitty-gritty behind who owns it.
Mm-hmm. Some cities and counties are in the metro area pushing it or trying to limit or ban family single rentals. Has there been any laws passed or ordinances passed yet?
Well, there's been some efforts. We know that some of the cities, including South Fulton, they at one point tried to ban single family rentals altogether. There was a court case. It didn't end up going through. There has also been some effort at the state level to try and limit the number of homes that these developers can have. It did not pass. So for now, at least, it looks like we're going to see more and more of these build-to-rent communities popping up in Metro Atlanta. We've seen them all over.
All right. 11Alive's Jonathan Martin, looking forward to your report, man. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
Friday marked the end of the legislative session at the state capitol, and now we're starting to get a good indication on who might be looking to move up for next year's midterm. Joining us now is Fred Hicks, a regular contributor to 11Alive's Georgia Vote, who also has worked on hundreds of political campaigns for nearly 20 years. Fred, you look good. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
All right. We have two big races to watch out for, the U.S. Senate and the governor, and we're already starting to hear some rumblings about these races. Where do both those races stand today?
Absolutely. These are the two biggest races really in the state and in two of the biggest ones in the country. So in the U.S. Senate seat, we have the current Senator John Ossoff, who is running for re-election, and just last week posted that he raised $11 million, which is a large sum of money for a candidate, whether they are an incumbent or a challenger. So he's on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, we're not quite sure yet who is going to run. There's a lot of discussion that the current governor, who's term limited out, Brian Kemp, that he might throw his hat in the ring. If he does not, then I think we're looking at people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, the current congresswoman. She's expressed interest. And we might also see a couple of other statewide elected officials who would consider throwing their names or their hats in the ring on the Republican side for that coveted seat, because that is going to be the #1 targeted Senate seat in the entire country. So there's a lot of interest in that one. And then we turn the page and we look at the governor. Oh, go ahead.
Explain why you're saying that. Why are you saying that?
So right now, Republicans have a 53-seat majority. It's 53-47 in the Senate. We've seen a number of votes come down to just one vote, including the confirmation of the now Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. And so for Democrats, you're trying to take back control of the Senate, or at least narrow Republican margins there. And for Republicans, one vote can make all the difference in enacting or continuing to enact President Trump's agenda. So that seat, which was held by Republicans for a long time, really until 2021, when Senators Ossoff and Warnock won in the special election, that's one that they want to try to claw back and get back. Because again, one vote makes all the difference. And given that Donald Trump won the state of Georgia in 2024 and Brian Kemp won in 2022, I think Republicans feel like that's a pickup seat there. So that's one that's going to be highly coveted. And it's going to be very, very, very expensive.
So one of the names being thrown out to that is Governor Brian Kemp. He's wrapping up his final term, right? And so he's being tossed in as a potential candidate for that seat. Is his decision, everybody waiting on his decision before they make a move, or what?
They absolutely are. Listen, he won his primary 2 years ago by, 3 years ago, 70+% of the vote he received over David Perdue. So he is the big fish in the Republican Party in Georgia. So people are going to wait on him, at least for a little while. If he does not do it again, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene, the current Congresswoman, is one who's looking at it. I think you could also see some of the other Republican Congress people putting their names in there if they want. If Governor Kemp does not do it, I think another name to potentially watch would be one of these people who's looking at running for governor, be it Chris Carr, the current Attorney General, or perhaps the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Again, if Brian Kemp does not do it and he makes that announcement to that effect, then you're going to see a rough and tough and tumbling race, so to speak, on the Republican side for the right to take on Jon Ossoff in November. So that's one to really watch, and that's going to be an expensive race.
Wow.
And of course, either way, irrespective of whether Governor Kemp decides to run for that or do something else, he is term limited out. So that's going to be the other place, right? Right now, we know that Attorney General Chris Carr is in that race. We expect the Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones to announce any day now that session is over that he is running for governor. And then we'll also potentially see maybe one other name in there as well. So that's going to be also a very expensive race. So Georgia is going to be at the epicenter of the American political scene yet again, as we've been every year since 2018.
While I got you, I want to talk to you about the race for Atlanta mayor. Do you see any movement or who could challenge Andre Dickens?
Yes. I think you might have a little token opposition here and there, but I don't expect there to be a significant opponent. Listen, Atlanta mayors run for re-election with the exception of Keisha Lance Bottoms 4 years ago, and they generally face token opposition and they generally win by 80+% of the vote. So I don't expect that you'll see anything major there. Now, there will be other elections on the ballot for Atlanta residents, including the race for city council president, the city's #2 position, because current city council president Doug Shipman has said that he is not running for re-election. So that would be a race to watch.
Wow. So we got a lot to look forward to. You're going to have to take up residency on the show,
absolutely.
Okay? I know you're on the Georgia vote. Well, come on and take, man. We're going to need your insight, okay?
Listen, anytime you have me, I'll be here.
All right, Fred Hicks, really appreciate you joining us today. All right, here's a look at the world's busiest airport, home of Delta Airlines, where there seems to be some turbulence ahead. Delta is warning investors that the trade war is creating a bumpy ride. According to its quarterly earnings report, Delta Airlines say the revenue will likely fall this quarter and is expected to its growth to stall. The airline had initial reports of about a revenue of 7% for the first quarter. Instead, it grew just over 3%. And despite the busy summer travel season, Delta says it may only gain 2% in revenue or could even drop by the same amount. Joining us now is Professor Kyle Townsend of Georgia State University's Business School. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Good morning, Chesley. It's my pleasure to be here with you and your viewers. Thank you.
All right. Your initial take on when you hear that news about Delta Airlines?
I think we're still in a situation where uncertainty is reigning. The effects of that are across industries broadly, but as it relates to travel, the business pullback, and then now we're looking at the busy travel season, seeing what the summer will become because of uncertainty.
So how does the economy impact travelers? Will we see prices go up as a result of those predictions?
That is a likely result in the long run here. Really, the interesting part is that we're almost to that point of the summer where we really will see airlines do a lot of their business. So there remains to be seen whether or not we see real negative effects. We've seen Delta cut their projected earnings, but not in a humongous way. And the result of that will, kind of leave some uncertainty for them too. Now, Delta has made some really smart moves. They are pulling offline some of their planned expansion to keep a little more cash in hand to be ready to pivot as the industry changes. And we'll see what happens with the summer travel season.
I'm sure this is the first time we've heard about these price hikes, things like that. Does it really make people kind of second guess their vacations?
It's actually, it starts less with the people second guessing their vacations. It starts with businesses pulling back business travelers. And Ed Bastian has stated that pretty clearly, that was the first thing they saw. And now we are seeing a softening of the individual traveler market or the leisure travel market.
Wow. So with all this turmoil going on, with the economy like it is, do you still think they'll be able to find deals? Will we be able to find deals out there?
There will still be some deals. Interestingly, as the time goes, we still have some other airlines also adding new routes, right? So opening up some opportunities. But also we're seeing something else happening too. We're seeing oil prices decrease, and that ultimately lowers the cost of business for Delta and their competitors. The changes that goes through as we progress through this quarter will determine basically the final outcome of the year.
You mentioned the competitors. Will they follow Delta's lead on this, or will they try to maybe sneak in and try to take over some of their loyal customers?
I'm expecting that they will follow the lead. We'll hear some earnings reports coming out from their competitors over the next 10 days, I believe, and they will kind of see where everybody stands, and that'll sort of even the playing field as we head into the summer travel season. I've
been finding myself asking my guest a lot this question, right? Because I guess I'm a forecaster myself. How do you see all this shaking out? What's your best guess for the future for all this turmoil?
Wow, Chesley, that's a tough one. I mean, we are in such a period of uncertainty, and we see, as you have just covered, things changing day to day. There is certainly the possibility that we end up avoiding recession and actually having a really productive travel season for the airlines and certainly the hospitality industry broadly. But right now, it's just hard to put a finger on it. If I had to guess, I would expect that we are, kind of stay in the course, and if we are able to get to a situation of more certainty, the opportunity to have, larger growth and something that represents more like what Delta was expecting out of 2025 when they forecast it. That's still a possibility, though not to the extent that they had originally identified.
Gotcha. Seems like airlines have been taking a lot of hits lately. Can they sustain a hit like this if it's the worst?
If it's the worst of the worst, there will be serious, downstream implications of that. The good thing is, again, Delta is proactively managing their cash by making decisions about the rest of the year, right? And a good example of that is not adding additional additional space, and ultimately, preparing to be able to pivot as they need to, right? As smart business managers do.
Yeah. Professor Townsend, thanks so much for joining us and giving us your insight. Really appreciate you. There's a major deadline approaching, and if you miss it, you could miss out on taking that summer vacation. May 7th is the deadline to make sure you are Real ID compliant. Here now is Ram Chalapa, Emory professor at Emory University. And Ram, welcome to the show, first of all.
Oh, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers.
Thank you. What is a Real ID? Explain that first for us.
Well, so the Real ID kind of goes back all the way to 9/11 and some of the decisions that we made after that. For a while, for a long time, states pretty much made up their own rules with regards to how driving licenses and other forms of ID were made and how they were granted. However, post 9/11, I think around 2005, we passed a Real ID Act, and the Real ID Act basically has some kind of a requirement that the federal government has actually put out. And so now all states kind of need to be compliant with this Real ID Act, which essentially is now required from next month if you have to board a plane.
How does it work? You just have to have a symbol on your ID. I did look up mine, and I do have a black star on my ID. But how does it work?
I think in Georgia, it's either a black star or a gold star on your ID, and most of our current newer IDs do have those. And the way it works is that in addition to all the basic requirements we used to have for issuing an ID, the state government, for example, the government of Georgia, requires other forms of verification. For example, the full social security number, and if you're a non-citizen, you have to have the proof of your visa status. And for people who become newly citizens, for example, you have to have your naturalization certificates. So there are a number of other forms of ID that are required in order for you to get a Real ID. And so these are the things that would be accepted by our State Department.
Now, there has been some pushback, especially from the ACLU, saying a Real ID is a threat to privacy. How do you feel about that?
Well, I guess that's kind of a complicated question. I mean, I don't believe that Real ID itself is a threat to privacy, but potentially what that information can be used for and how it is acquired, etc., can become an issue. For example, we now require some form of federally mandated ID to get into an airport. And so your passport will do if you don't have a real ID. So you have to have some form of identification. And the main difference today is that the form of identification issued by the state governments require some form of federal proof about your eligibility to actually be in this country.
Gotcha. Is there a difference between the black star and the gold star? You mentioned earlier that you either have a black one or a gold. Is there a difference in the two?
I'm not aware if there is any technical difference between the two.
I was going to say, but maybe mine gets me in the first class or something like that, you know?
I would hope so.
So if you try to board a flight and you don't have it, they'll just turn you around, you just cancel that trip? How does that work?
Yes, absolutely. You do need to have one of these IDs in order for you to get on a plane. And of course, your passport will always work, but if you have something from the state, it needs to be a real ID from, I believe, May 7th onwards.
Any idea, if you don't have one now, how long that would take? I mean, I know the deadline is coming up here pretty soon. You know how long it would take to get one?
I think it's a pretty fast process right now. If you have all the documents, I would suggest go in person to one of the ID issuing offices and try to get an ID as soon as possible.
And maybe if you don't have a passport, go ahead and get one of those too, right?
Oh yeah, a passport. You know, we heard that the number of days it takes to process a passport has kind of come down. I have not seen evidence of that, but certainly now would be the time to have at least one form of either a federally issued ID or a real ID from a state.
Professor Chalapo, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for your insight. Really appreciate it. All this economic unease comes as many Georgians are wrapping up filing their income taxes, but did you know you may have a little bit more time? Here now is financial expert Toy Wheeler, who is based in McDonough. Toy, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Chesley. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We're catching up a bit on a break in our financial taxes because of the Hurricane Helene. How much do you think this helps taxpayers go around?
Well, I tell you, everything that's been going on in politics and everything has really impacted the IRS a great deal. In fact, Melanie Cross, the third leader of the agency to resign this year, along with the recent IRS employee layoffs of over 90,000 employees, has kind of reduced public confidence, added doubt, and increased fear towards this important annual filing process. Many are just, really worried about facing obstacles during their efforts to resolve tax issues because of all of the layoffs, and that their return processing and their refunds may be delayed. So, even IRS data from numerous sources point to the fact that taxpayers are just not excited this year about filing income tax returns. For example, Forbes magazine reported just a few days ago that stats from the 8th week of the filing season show that the number of taxpayers the tax returns received by the IRS has dipped again around 4.2% compared to last year. And this trend just has not changed much since January, the start of the season.
So I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I can assure you that the IRS, however, is still functioning and processing returns. And they're also applying penalties and interest as well.
Gotcha. What have you been sharing with people to kind of ease their fears, the fears that you mentioned?
Well, I do remind people that, even though there are layoffs, the IRS is still functioning. We do have some delays in customer service when we call the call centers, even on the practitioner side. But per my experience, returns are being processed and people are actually getting problems resolved quite efficiently and effectively.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Is there anything new this year that people need to watch out for?
There's nothing particularly new, but I did put together for your wonderful viewers 5 last-minute tax strategies that can help save them a little money and maximize their returns this year.
You want to share some of those?
Absolutely. So number one, if you have retirement contributions to traditional IRAs or SEP IRAs, these are tax-deductible retirement products, and they lower your taxable income right away the year you contribute and file your tax returns, and that could save you and your family a lot of money. Number two, in addition to your federal tax return, most Americans have to file a state tax return, and a lot of states offer tax credits and other benefits for things like rent payments and childcare and even some educational costs. So it's worth checking those out as well. Number 3, fund a HSA, a health savings account. This is a high deductible plan, allows you as an individual to contribute up to $3,850 or $7,750 for your family. And it can be deducted from your taxable income the year you contribute as well. It's like a tax-free emergency fund for medical expenses. Number 4, write off business purchases. If you purchased a new laptop, software, supplies, as a small business or a self-employed individual, you can deduct 100% of those eligible expenses on your taxes this year. And lastly, number 5, deduct student loan interest if you paid it, educational expenses for higher education if you attended school. We're looking at $2,500 deduction for student loan interest. And if you took courses and you have course materials, those can be deductible and save you a little money and also get you some credits if you're eligible.
Wow, that is very good tips. Very good tips, Tori. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Are there any areas that we shouldn't ignore this year?
No areas that we should ignore, but I do want to place the focus on safeguarding personal information with everything that's going on. I really implore the public to seek out and use a certified IRS tax professional, an EA or a CPA. Never share personal information via email or through text message, which is very popular these days. It's a lot of ways to get your information stolen that way. And also, I encourage even my clients here at Wheeler Tax and Accounting to set up an IRS online account so that they can monitor changes, they can track their refunds, and they can also access tax records and pay balances if needed right on the site. And that is the most secure way to do it.
Good tips. Thank you for joining us, giving us that insight.
Sure.
Very valuable.
Thank you.
Time for my final take. And should a woman at least offer to pay for a date? That was the topic on NBC's Today Show with Jenna and Friends. Guest host Jay Ellis said yes, of course, where Jenna Bush Hager was shocked and disagreed. When Ellis pressed Jenna about whether or not she ever offered to pay, she eventually said no. Well, he went on to tell her that she should at least fake it. He thought it was something sexy about a woman who offered to pay, and even if she had no intention to do so. Well, I agree with Jay. Not only that, but there is a lot to be said about someone who has good intentions and seemingly a good heart. So yeah, offer. If you've never done it, give it a shot. See where your relationship goes from there. What do you got to lose? About $80? You know? At least you know where you stand, right? That's all we got for you today, folks. I'm already getting some chatter about this already. Tell us what you think. We'd love to know. Make it a great day. And remember to encourage someone. Maybe pay for their date.